Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Call. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and it is my honor to be here with you today. So many good things are happening in the world that I just, on a Saturday morning like today, it's just a real blessing to look out and see how beautiful it is and just know that this is a great day for living, sharing, and being alive. This is Millionaire Mentorship Call number 327. And our topic for today is getting out of a rut. And this is a topic that's very, very dear to me because many times in my life, I have found myself in a rut. I don't know about other people, but I have found myself in a rut. And for those who are listening today, welcome, Perry. Thank you for joining us. And Dawn, welcome. There are two things to realize about a rut. And number one, it's not permanent. And most of all, number two, you have the power to change it. Someone once asked me, what's the difference between being in a rut and being in a hole? You see, a hole is like working on a project where you're doing the wrong activities in the wrong place. It's like digging for gold in the wrong place. And you work diligently at it, but you get absolutely no results. And so when you're in a hole, I think the first thing you have to realize, the first thing you have to do is stop digging. When you're in a rut, it's not that clear. You have to wonder sometimes, well, how's a rut created? If it's not clear that you're in it, how's it created? A rut is generally created by doing the same things over and over, the same activities over and over, the same relationships over and over, the same job over and over. That rut can be a job where you just keep going and going and going, day after day after day, going back and forth for 40 years, and till one day somebody finally just kicks some dirt over you, you run out of steam, and they just throw dirt over you, and that's the end. A rut can be a bad relationship where you're in it and just can't seem to get out of it, and it seems that no matter what you do, it just doesn't get any better. You're there, and you really have to say, like, is this all that there is? Very often, even relationships, when you get in a rut. Hey, Harold, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Good. And Dawn, thank you. Sometimes when you're in a relationship, you keep going through the motions. Many times when people have been together for a long time, they keep going through the motions, but really and truly, as they say in the song, the thrill is gone. So that idea of a rut is that sometimes you don't even know that you're in the rut. Sometimes you get so stuck in it that you get so accustomed to going through the motions that it seems like that's all there is. A job that you've just been in and you just keep going, you hate it, but after a while you just assume that that's all that you're going to get. A relationship where you keep going over and over and you just sort of assume that's all there is. The thrill is gone, and maybe you're not happy in it, but wow, you just keep going on and on. Sometimes when you accept a relationship, a job, a position, when you accept it, you can lose your desire to change it. You get into that, we'll call it that sense of mediocrity. Whatever you accept, you get. And so being in a rut is a situation that, number one, you created it. A lot of times folks don't like to recognize that, but as we go on today, you realize that the rut that you're in, you created it, either actively or passively. Sometimes when you think about a rut, there's a story I talk about, the proverbial Bob. And Bob worked on a job that he hated. Okay. Every day Bob would come to work and he'd have his lunch pail, and around 11:30 he'd sit down, he'd open the lunch pail and he'd say, "Oh crap, peanut butter and jelly again." Ah. And he'd eat it frowning. One day one of his coworkers said to him, says, "Hey Bob, why don't you tell your wife to make you something different since you don't like peanut butter and jelly?" Bob says, "I'm not married." He said, "Well, then who makes your sandwiches every day?" Bob says, "I do." And so sometimes we get into a rut, and it's just that clear. We're there because of something we did that we just keep doing over and over, sometimes subconsciously. We make our lives just like that. We create it, then we complain about it. Sometimes we create that rut by just doing nothing. And so if you're in a rut, how do you know it? Well, the first realization that you're in a rut is that you're probably not happy. You probably feel a little disappointed. You probably feel a little pain. And you're probably sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so many of us get in the rut, but we are being sick and tired of doing something, but we keep going through it. And so at some point you have to say, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I got to do something. I got to face this rut." A rut is really a challenge, because one of the things we recognize about a rut, if you continue in that rut, you're going to get whatever you're getting. In other words, once you accept the fact that you're in a rut, then that's what you're going to get. Whatever you accept, you get. And so if you're in a rut is a challenge. If you're in a rut, you're really facing a serious challenge. And when you're in a challenge, there are really 4 ways you can approach that challenge, approach that rut. Number 1, I call it the 4 F's. You can forget it. Some people can be in a rut and they try to forget it. They operate in a level of total denial. They act as if nothing is wrong. Sometimes you can be in a relationship that's going absolutely nowhere, that you're not happy about, that's unfulfilling, and yet you don't change it. You can be in a job where they disrespect you, where they don't honor you, where they only pay you just enough to keep you from quitting, and you do nothing about it. When you're in that forget it phase, you convince yourself, that that's all there is. And so you have that tendency to put yourself in a holding pattern. Well, I'm just going to stay in this relationship because, well, it's not that bad, really. Okay. I'm going to stay in this job because, well, that's all there is. And they just keep moving and deny that situation. And guess what? If you don't change it, it won't change. And so when you forget about the rut, you maintain it. Other people want to fight it. And you fight the rut by making excuses. You see, the moment you claim that you're in a rut because of somebody else's doing, it's a result of outside people. It's a result of other people's situations. They won't give me a promotion. I can't find anything better because they're not hiring my kind. They don't like tall people, short people, fat people. When you get stuck in that situation and you stay there because you really attribute the situation to other people, to something outside yourself. So you keep fighting it. I'm unhappy, but it's the other person's fault. They're going to change. I'm unhappy in my job, but sooner or later they're going to see how good I am. Reverend Ike, one of my good mentors and teachers, used to tell the story of Sister Mary, who was in a bad relationship. And he said to Sister Mary, if the relationship is so bad, why don't you get rid of that man? And she said, you know, Reverend Ike, it's a bad situation. She said, but the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. In other words, Sister Mary had a thought in her mind that every man was a bad person. Every man was a devil. And so it really didn't matter. She'll just keep the devil she knows because she knows how bad he is. Wow. You can fight the fact that you're in a rut by making excuses. Oh, he's not that bad. Oh, it's really not that bad. I mean, I actually get a vacation once every 5 years. You know, that rut of a job, we were coming to Raleigh, and we had a lady that we've been seeing for the last, 10 years, working in one of the fast food places. And she came over and she felt, I could tell there was something wrong. And she said to Sandra, she said, you know, this hurricane, I couldn't work for 2 weeks. And my place got messed up. And I'm staying in a hotel. And I have to pay them $39 a day. And if I don't pay them today, they'll put my stuff out on the street. And I don't get paid until tomorrow. Now, this is a job that this person had been working on for 21 years. In other words, she had permitted herself to be in such a rut that this position would not even take care of her emergency situation. She didn't feel that she could say, I need an advance. The fact that they were closed for 2 weeks meant that her savings were depleted. And so when you live in that, make excuses, but it's a good job. That was the excuse. I know it doesn't do what I need, but it's a good job. And so this creates a situation where not only are you stuck, but it's impossible to get out because of your mindset. When you're in a rut, the only thing to really do to get out of that rut is the fourth F that we say, to face it. Oh, I forgot one other F. There's the F that's called the fleeing it. You know, you can forget it, you can fight it, but many times young people will flee it. In other words, when you're in a situation, you leave it. You get to a point in every situation, every relationship where it's unfulfilling, and you leave that one and go to the next one. We know people like that. We've probably done it ourselves. We go from job to job to job. We get to a certain point in our job experience and where we become unhappy. We don't go any further. We go get another job. So you can flee that rut, and when you flee it, you maintain it because you just take it to another place. You carry the rut with you. But finally, the key to getting out of a rut, folks, is to face it. Once you face that rut, then you can change it. You see, the key to getting out of a rut is to recognize that it's not permanent, number one, but number two, to recognize that you have the power to change it. I want to read something from a moment from page 57 of our book of the 12 Universal Laws of Success. And it's called the law of change. It's the law of change that will help you get out of that rut. And in the law of change, it says, be not conformed to this world. Means that you don't have to stay stuck or locked in whatever circumstances, whatever situation, whatever relationship, whatever associations, whatever challenges are facing you. You don't have to stay there. The second part of the law of change says, be you transformed by the renewing of your mind. That means that you can change your condition by transforming your thinking. You can change that rut by changing your thinking, by putting a new thought, a new mindset, a new state of consciousness. In other words, the law of change says you can change your life from whatever it is right now to anything you want it to be by changing your thinking, your frame of reference about yourself. Those of you who are on our live broadcast today, please share it with some of your friends. We'd love to have them on. I think that this is a message that all of us have experienced in one time or another. So the moment you decide, and when you say make a decision, there's a definition that says a decision is a conclusion you make based on your determination. And so the moment you recognize you're in a rut and you decide in your mind to change it, there's no greater power than the power of a made-up mind. The moment you decide to change your situation, whatever it might be, then you have a power affirmation, and that affirmation is, if it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me. And so if you're in a business and you're in a rut, you keep doing the same things over and over and you're not getting any results, you get discouraged, you decide you may quit. But then you think about it for a moment. You got in that business because you were in the rut of having a job that was unfulfilling. And so now when your business is not giving you what you want, you're unhappy. But the law of change says you can change that by changing your thinking. You have to take a new approach. Maybe you have to learn something new. Study other people. See what the winners have done. The moment you decide to come out of that rut, the moment that you recognize you're in the rut, the moment that you say it's up to me, you're on your way out. Nobody can pull you out of a rut. You have to pull yourself out of a rut. Now, somebody can help you, but they can help you if you're reaching up. There's a beautiful drawing of a person reaching up and another one reaching down to help. The person reaching down can't help the person who's not reaching up. Many times in our lives, we want to help people. We see people in a rut and we want to help them. We come and we tell them, we want to guide them. We want to lead them out of their rut. And if they're not ready, they're not going to follow. And so when you're in a rut, you have to make a conscious decision to change. A conscious new thought to bring about the new situation that you want. When we get into a rut, sometimes it's a rut of acceptance, of mediocrity. When we say to ourselves, you know, I can't do any better because I don't have enough education. I call it the I don't have syndrome. See, the I don't have syndrome will keep you in that rut. Any moment, anytime anybody says I don't have, they're perpetuating their present condition. And so, if you say, I don't have any money, you perpetuate brokenness. If you said, I don't have any education, you're perpetuating mediocrity. And so, whatever you say you don't have becomes a prison that maintains your rut. You see, the power of a made-up mind is such that it can get you out of that rut. And the moment you make that decision to go for it, and decision is based on choice. I like the word decision, but decision is really means that you made a choice. We are where we are in life based on our choices and the actions we take on those choices. And so decisions mean choice. Choice is decision in action. There's a powerful principle that says, choose this day whom you will serve. You can either serve good or you can either serve evil. So you're in a rut. You want to get out of that rut. How do you do it? Let's look at an analogy. One of the stories, the biblical stories, David and Goliath. David was a little Hebrew boy. Goliath was a giant who wanted to imprison the Hebrew people. Now, when you think about that, what did David have that could make him able to stand up to and be victorious over Goliath? Adam Clayton Powell, one of the ministers and politicians of the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, he had a speech, and the speech said, "What's in your hands?" And the theme was that you already have everything you need to get everything you want. In fact, whatever situation you have, you say, "What's in your hands?" That means that you look around, because you were put here for a purpose. And so when you look around, you can see the things that maybe you have been overlooking now that are there to help you get out of that rut and help you move to the next level. So we all have a Goliath in our lives, a Goliath, and I like to call it an ugly giant, because anything that's keeping you away from being the person that you want to be has got to be ugly. So Goliath was an ugly giant wanting to enslave the Hebrew people. We have Goliaths in our lives. That Goliath may be a big, ugly emotion, an emotion of insecurity, an emotion of lack of self-worth, poor self-esteem, an emotion that goes back to our childhood that has kept us locked up in a cage of mediocrity, that has kept us locked up in relationships that cause us pain. That Goliath can be a job that you hate, a job that you know you're working on somebody else's dream, and you know they're only going to pay you just enough to keep you from quitting. In fact, in order for you to live, you have to get another job just to maintain your life so that you can go to the first job that you hate. The fact that you accept it means you got it. So anything that you accept, you got. If David had accepted the fact that Goliath was a big, strong, powerful giant, he would have never looked around. But you see, David was a young boy. He was full of life. He was full of potential. He was full of dreams. And one of the main things is he didn't want to be a slave. He didn't want to be a captive. He wanted to be free. And so he decided that he didn't want to be a captive. You see, many times in situations, especially when you're in a rut, you have to decide what you don't want. So in a job, you don't want a job that doesn't pay you a living wage. In a relationship, you don't want a person who does not honor you, who does not lift you up, who does not make you feel good about yourself. You see, the moment you decide what you don't want, then you can start focusing on what you do want. Michael Jackson told Shaquille O'Neal one time, when the Bulls had swept Shaquille's team, he said to Shaquille, "You got to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win." And so you have to learn what it is that you don't want about that rut to really get the passion to go after what you do want. You see, once David made a decision that he did not want to be a slave, once he decided he was going to challenge Goliath, he looked around. In other words, whatever your situation is, look around, knowing that the fact that you were created by a knowing and powerful creator means that you are already endowed with certain inalienable values and rights. And so when you look around, when you see beyond your present circumstances to the truth of who you really are, you'll find that you have everything you need to get everything you want. And so when he looked around to see what was available, he found a stone on the ground. A stone metaphysically means total faith, absolute faith, rock solid faith. And so to get out of that rut, you have to have rock solid faith that you are able to do it, that you have everything you need to take you out of that rut, to take you where you want to be. You see, when you look around your situation, know that there's a stone, a great understanding that can help you get out of that rut. You see, to get out of the rut, the one thing that David did after he looked around and found the stone, he did something critical. He took action. You see, the moment that you understand where you want to go, the moment that you understand your destiny and that you want to be, do, and have, then you have to take action on it. David picked up the rock. He put it in his slingshot. He swung it around. Now, when David did that, he didn't think about statistics. What are the odds that I'm going to hit this man in the head? He didn't think about the fact that his present situation, that it really looked bad. That if you counted up the statistics, he probably didn't have what it takes to slay Goliath. But when David took action, he took action having total faith that his rock solid belief in himself was sufficient to overcome Goliath. So when we decide to change our situations, when we decide to break the chains of mediocrity, we have to come at it with such total commitment there's no turning back. In other words, David didn't say, let me try this. Let me see if this works. He staked his life on it. And so when you're in a rut and you want to get out, you got to stake your life on it. You got to be flat out. You can't be half-hearted about getting out of a rut. You can't be half-hearted about changing your condition. You know, when Cortez, the great Spanish explorer, when he was in Mexico and he wanted to take the gold, that there were 10,000 Mexican Indians that did not want Cortez to take the gold. Cortez had 600 men, and he said, what can I do to motivate my 600 men to fight hard so that we can win? And it came to him. What he had to do was to cut off the possibility of escaping. So he burned the ships. So he put everybody in a situation where it was fight or die. When you want to come out of your rut, the rut that is your life, you have to have that same determination. You have to burn your ships. You have to take that attitude that there's no alternative but for me to do what must be done. So how do we execute this plan to get out of the rut? How do we do it with passion? Number one, the first thing, of course, to do is that you realize that you're in a rut and that you face the fact. You face the fact that you're in a rut and that there's something better for you. That you don't have to accept that. That you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. That it's more to life than just eating and sleeping. That you don't have to accept bad treatment. That you don't have to accept anything that does not honor and uplift you. So once you realize that, then the second thing is to identify the challenge. Identify the Goliath. One of the great principles there is that once you identify the enemy, once you identify the challenge, then you have the power to look around to find the rock of solid understanding that can give you what you need to overcome that challenge and to get out of that rut. In our lives, we have many Goliaths. The Goliath may be our business, where the negativity of failure, of constant failure, makes us feel discouraged and we want to quit. But see, we have to be like Colonel Sanders. When you're in business, Colonel Sanders had an idea. At about 68 years old, he decided that he was sick and tired of being sick and tired, that he was in a rut. And even though the numbers and the statistics said at 68, it's pretty much over, buddy. But he said, no, I don't want to live my life like this. I want to do something different. And so at 68, he decided to go out. He looked around. He said, well, what do I have? When he looked around, he had a great chicken recipe. I guarantee that many of you listening today has a great talent that you've been sitting on. He said, I can make great fried chicken. And he went out into the world with rock solid faith. He went to 1,000 people, restaurants. He didn't even want to sell it. He said, let me just give you the recipe and you give me a percentage. 1,000 people turned him down. In fact, he got 1,009 rejections. But on that 1,010th, he got a yes. And the rest is history. And so when we decide to get out of that rut, we have to have that same conviction of Colonel Sanders. That once we identify that Goliath and make a decision to go for it, then we got to do it flat out, hands down, no retreat. The third key is to make a general blanket decision that whatever the rut is, you created it. You see, the moment you accept the fact that that rut is there because you created it, you can change it. Some people say, well, I didn't create the fact that I got a lousy boss. No, but you took that job. Maybe you ignored the signs that you should have left 5 years ago. Maybe when they terminated your friends, when they did the first cutback, the first layoffs, you didn't see the writing on the wall. So once you say, whatever it is, I did it, then the other side of that is, if it's to be, it's up to me. If I did it, I can fix it. So how do we fix it? How do we get out of that rut? What are the steps? Once we've done these three things, number one, make a list of the things you love doing. You say one of the things that motivates you out of the rut is that you want something better. So make a list of the things you love doing it so that you can then refocus your life on the things you want. So maybe it's writing, maybe it's singing, maybe it's making fried chicken. But the moment you focus on what you love doing, you're starting out of that rut. You're taking a new thought. You're transforming your thinking. Number two, describe your rut. So once you know what you love doing, what you want to do, then look at the rut. What is holding you back? Maybe I don't have enough education. Maybe I don't have the right connections. But whatever it is, once you determine what's holding you back, once you describe the rut, you can now fix it. Because once you see the Goliath, then you can look around and see what you already have to get what you really want. Number three, look at the actions that you can take based on what you love doing and your situation. You see, when you look at the actions, when you look at the options, you then put yourself in the position of creating a harmonic vibration. Everything is about vibration. So the moment you look at the actions that you can take to get you out of that rut, you've already set up the vibration that will bring about the things that will help you do it. You see, sometimes you permit the world to relate to you in such a way that it puts you in a rut. You may permit a person to treat you in such a way that puts you in that rut. But the moment you look at your options, it will come true to you what to do. The fourth step is to face that uncomfortable truth. So what is the uncomfortable truth? Well, the uncomfortable truth is that reality that most of the pain that you are experiencing in the rut is coming from inside. Sometimes this pain is a result of feeling incomplete. You know, when you work on something and you work and you just never seem to get the reward, you never get the payoff, you never finish. That's coming from inside. Sometimes it may be unworthiness. That it seems that no matter what you do, you never get the prize, that you never attract into your life the person you want to meet. You never attract the goodies that you want to experience. And so a part of this process is we have to unveil these uncomfortable truths about who we are. Maybe we had a tough childhood. Maybe we became so fearful and so indecisive that we are where we are because we could never make a choice about what to do. You see, even inaction is a choice. Everything you do is a choice. And so maybe that early childhood, those feelings of insecurity, maybe lack of love. Maybe it may be constant failures. Maybe you have failed so many times in the past that now you've created a mindset where you expect failure. See, you can may be the negative of a Colonel Sanders that after 1,000 times you say, hey, the next person is going to say no to. And so when you present to that next person, they can feel your vibration of rejection. The fifth key to get out of the rut is to find a person to model. This is critical. Find a person to model. You can't think yourself out of a rut. You have to act yourself out of a rut. In other words, the moment you think a new thought, that thought has to be reflected in action and feeling. So the best way to learn what to do to get out of the rut is to find somebody who's been there, who's done that, and then model their behavior. Set your ego aside. You see, your ego can keep you in the rut. If you don't know where you're going and you won't ask somebody, guess what? You're going to continue along the way you're going, which is not where you want to go. But the moment you have a model, somebody to follow, somebody to emulate, and the moment you set aside your ego to ask for help, that when you find that person, be honest with them. Humble yourself. Get their help, and they'll show you. They'll give you some of those invaluable nuggets that will help you get out of that rut. Number 6, learn how to say yes. When I say learn how to say yes, so many good things have come into your life, into my life, into each of our lives, and we rejected them. There's a great saying in network marketing. It says, don't be poor. And poor means passing over opportunities repeatedly. So when you're stuck in a rut, you become indecisive and insecure, and so you find it hard to make decisions. Then that self-doubt tends to perpetuate the rut. And so when you learn to say yes, you overcome that doubt. You see, one thing that neutralizes doubt is action. And so say yes to more things. Say yes to new opportunities. Say yes to new relationships. Say yes to new trips, new things, new experiences. Now, I'm not saying be a fool, but be intelligent about it. But do something. Say yes that I'm going to see something different. I'm going to go somewhere new. Get out of your comfort zone. You see, the moment you say yes, that takes you out of your comfort zone. Number 7. To help you get out of a rut, look around, you'll see there are other people. So when you help somebody else, it creates a harmonic relationship between you and that person. Sometimes you may be in a relationship where you're in a rut. When the two of you can approach that rut together, then you get that harmonic relationship where 2 or more minds are gathered on one accord are more powerful than either mind individually. That harmonic relationship of helping somebody else not only empowers them, but it empowers you. You see, the closed hand cannot receive. The open hand can receive and give. So when you give, you can also receive. Number 8, to realize that no matter what the rut is, no matter how challenging it is, it's only for a season. It says to everything there's a season. There's a season to be in a rut. And then once you recognize it's not permanent, then you know that good times are on the way. The key is, though, you decide when the rut is over. You decide when you said, I've had enough. I'm sick and tired. And then finally, number 9, change your routine. You know, we get where we are because we create habits and routines. And each habit, each routine creates a vibration that then determines what is attracted into our lives. So the moment you change your routine, you operate from a different perspective. You do things differently. You create another vibration. You meet people differently. You go into different places. That whatever you always do, change it and do something else. The moment you change your routine, you change your relationship with the universe and with everything around you, and you create a vibration for change. And so, friends, if you're in a rut, recognize that you're in the rut. Realize that it's not permanent. and understand that you have the power to make it end. You have the power to create the life that you desire. You see, the moment you have that clarity of what you want to be, do, and have, of the life exactly the way you want it to be, then there's no power greater than a made-up mind. You become that David facing Goliath. That you now have the power to change everything about your existence, to change everything, to create the life you want to live, to be the person you want to be, to have the things you want to have. The moment you make that change in your thinking and act upon that choice, you're already on the bridge. You see, decision is the bridge between your present situation and where you want to be. And so it is. We have the ability to get out of the rut the moment we decide to do so. We have the power to get out of the rut the moment we decide to take action. And when we take action, we get results. Always knowing that the best is yet to come. And so it is.